surgeon works 13-hour shifts and comes home and cooks for her husband every single night. So we're going to react to this post on Twitter. We're excited for you all to get your thoughts on this, but before we do me a quick favor, hit that like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and check this out. So, surgeon has social media in shambles after revealing her husband expects to cook after she comes home from her 13-hour shift, even on his off days. I don't expect strangers to understand our life. Her name, I think Dr. Shan is her name on TikTok, and she actually gave more expounded thoughts on this. And so we're going to actually look at her video right here. We're going to look at a clip from this video.
Next question is my husband at home, sitting on the couch, watching me slave away while he did absolutely nothing. Yes, I actually don't like my husband cooking, and so I like to let him relax while I cook, and that's just who I am. You guys just gonna have to accept it. I'm sorry. The word expect. Does my husband expect me to cook for him? Yes. I'm his wife, and I cook for him. I just want to say that, like, my husband and I are in a great marriage. He helps out a lot, and just because you guys aren't seeing him help out does not mean that he does not. He is a great husband, and like, I am so grateful to have him. I am so grateful to have him.
That last part was a little bit weird, I'm not gonna lie. I'll start off and give some of my thoughts. So when I first saw the original video that was on that Twitter post, I was like, okay, expects is a little bit interesting. I mean, so I think the word choice of expects is what most people were in uproar about. And I looked at the comments and everybody was like, you know, pretty much, it's expects for me. And they were saying like, that was where the issue from a lot of people had. And then when you put it in the context of being a surgeon, we looked up the average amount of money surgeons make, and they're making well into the six figures. Like, I wanted to say like, what, 300,000 yearly, like on average? It was like ridiculous amount range depending on what state you live in. It was crazy. So I'm sure other people, you know, were inquisitive and looked it up as well. And were like, wait, you're working 13-hour shifts. You're getting this much money and you're coming home and cooking for your husband. So they obviously wanted context. Now, the context that she gave seemed fair enough. It was like, hey, by choice, I cook for my husband. This is my husband. I love him. And I like my cooking better. You know, it was really simple. It's like, hey, I don't like his cooking like that. And I don't mind cooking for the family to make sure that we're eating good. I mean, she's like, I guess she like, hey, if I'm gonna work 13-hour shifts, I'm going to eat well. Now, obviously, we don't know the full scope of the relationship. We just know what Dr. Shan put out there. So my thing is, I do think we get into dicey territory when you're getting into other people's relationship and no, someone could even be, here's how I even put it. Someone could even be, you could even see them being taken advantage of in certain ways where you'd be like, okay, she's working all this time and then she is expected to come home and have dinner ready. And it didn't say whether or not he's working or not, but I would assume he is working as well. Maybe not making as much, or who knows, maybe he is. But if she said, hey, you know, he's pretty much sitting waiting for dinner to be done, even like on his off days, you know, he's going to expect dinner to be made for him. But that's the full context of it. But I guess on the surface, you'd be like, okay, it might feel like she's being taken advantage of. But even that, I think, is a choice of the person that they're with. Like, I'm not necessarily saying I co-sign if that was the case, that someone's being taken advantage of, but I do think it's important for us to say, hey, we all in certain ways don't mind, you know, being taken advantage of when we have a strength in something or that there's something that we don't mind doing. So my wife does primarily all of the cooking with the exception of when I grill. Like that's the only time. And even then she still make the sides. So she'll still cook up the sides. But the reason for that is because she's an amazing cook. Now, if you throw the context of 13-hour shift in there, you know the nuance that we would add for our relationship, for our marriage? The nuance that we'd add is, well, you know, sometimes I'm going to go eat out. Sometimes I'm going to have to buy dinner for us. Like if there is a day, there have been days where, so she's a teacher, and there are times where she'll work a full day and then parent-teacher conferences immediately follow, or meetings and then parent-teacher conferences. So she's literally from 7 to 7, so about 12 hours. So there are days like that. And on those days, either I fend for myself and get myself something to eat. I don't expect her to get dinner. Or you know, I get dinner for both of us at the store. I figure out something. So I think that nuance is left out. We don't obviously know that. I would assume that she seems to be in pretty good shape. I mean, she's a doctor. I don't know what we didn't see her husband, but they may not eat out a lot. She doesn't look like the person that's eating out. Just looking at her, as hard as she works, it does look like she eats healthy. Even the food that they showed in the little short looks like they're eating relatively decent food. Like they're, not just eating fast food like crazy. So there probably is a lot of cooking. That is probably the expectation. So it can come off as selfish, but I do think the nuance that I would add is if that's the arrangement that works best for them, if she's going to be way more unhappy if her husband makes something and it's not good, or she just thinks that he doesn't put the love and care into it that she would put into it, then I think that's totally her choice. And if that works for the relationship, if there's no red flags in it, then I think it's fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I agree. At the first thought, I said, if she like it, I love it. It's the thing. So like Bradley talked about, I do most of the cooking and things. And to be honest, yeah, if he did most of the cooking, I'd probably be right there behind him, reminding him of certain things like, make sure you do this. Don't forget that I would have done this, And he's going to get irritated by that really quickly, and I don't blame him. But this is the thing. She's choosing to do that. And when we see that word expects, I know we've even talked about it, with other relationships and things. Yeah, first of all, you'd be like, hold on, what does expect mean?
Right.
But when you're talking about like in the context of agreements, right? Or a marriage.
Yeah.
If you say, I will do this, the other person on the other side will then expect you to do that. Right. Vice versa. So that's where I believe she is coming from, especially since she shared in the video, in the TikTok video. And she's saying, well, first of all, I prefer my cooking way more. I would rather have me cook and to have a really good, tasty meal than him because he's not good in that area. So she's expecting it too. She wants some good cooking. And then she's saying, yeah, this is what I do for my husband. So I'm sure they've discussed it, all things like that. Mind you, I think, she know people in uproar, like she said. She went viral for this. So we have to keep in mind, while she is cooking, she said, is he sitting down, chilling, doing what he's doing? Yes. She did not say that's what he does all day, every day, couch potato.
Right.
So y'all have to keep in mind, we like, hold on, so he just gonna watch you do? Yeah, while she's cooking, because he's chilling. But, she does not go into detail about what he does, like you said. She does not go into detail. She just says that he helps out so much. She says that we are in a happy, loving marriage. So I'm saying, us other married people, we know we probably do things that y'all will look at, or other people will look at. It's like, that's ludicrous. That's crazy. She expects him to do that. He expects her to do that. Okay. And let's be honest, as single women, we're not in a relationship right now. So right now we're thinking about what we would not do, what we would not stand for, what I couldn't dare imagine. Me. Exactly. Couldn't be me. Well, right now, you're in your single season, so it's not you. So I'm just saying, keep in mind, something that's different is always going to look more possibly absurd than if we were really in the mix of it, right? He could be making more money than her. It doesn't matter. It's not just about the money. But in that agreement that they did in their marriage, she's cooking that food for her and her husband, and she's going to eat good when she come home from work. I do want to keep in mind, too, a lot of people in the health field, nurses, doctors, things like that, they're working 13 hours for like 3 days, 4 days, and then they take off some days. So maybe she's using that to meal prep what she's going to make. It look like she had a bag and part of the video, so she already planned her meals ahead of time, and it works for them. I say more power to them.
Yeah, and that's the key. At the end of the day, if it works for you, then it's like, do what works for you in your household and your marriage. And then she threw in the key detail. Well, let me take a step back before I even get into that. I mean, just looking at this on surface, she framed it that way because she knew that people would be quick to get in her business and want to give their opinion and saying like, that couldn't be me, or, all that type of talk.
Make it interesting. Come on.
So she framed it that way so that your first instinct would be to have an issue with it. Like, okay, what type of dude are you with? Or that's why I'm not married, because of that type of stuff. Because you immediately put your negative bias to it.
Is that why?
Yeah, so it becomes a negative because you can't imagine working 13 hours and then still being expected to do dinner. Now, that does on surface for some people. Even when I read, I was like, expect is a little bit of it comes off a way. It has kind of like connotation that you can take negatively. But she framed it that way because she knew it would get, go viral. I don't know if she knew to the extent that it did. But in her response, she's saying, hey, I'm happy with what he does. He does a lot for me. He does a lot. And so there is a contribution he's clearly bringing to the table that she is not pointing out or going explicit in detail with. But whatever that contribution is, she's satisfied with it. She's fine with it. And like you said, if you like it, I love it. And that's exactly where I'm at with it. It's like, hey, if you feel like what he's bringing to the table is suffice for what you're doing with your 13-hour shifts and still cooking dinner, then I think it works out. And I think we can't use, like, people will look at everything as a slight for, like, that's why I'm not married, because I'm not going to be no servant, and I'm not going to be just cooking no man, whatever. And it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, and you have to be honest with yourself and say, like, hey, if you don't see yourself as the wife that does that, there's guys that cook, there's guys that have no problem eating out or even paying for services to, like, have breakfast, lunch, dinner decided, and you just heat it up. It's a lot of different options out there. Food shouldn't be the source of it, but we do acknowledge that food and things like that, chores and responsibilities, do tend to really cause a lot of friction in relationships and marriages. So we understand the number one instinct you have is to tense up, but I think we also have to be respectful to the fact that certain people are going to decide that they want to do stuff. And this could be seasonal. Like, she may stack up enough money at a certain point and be like, hey, I'm going to, start up a business, or I'm going to do this or whatever. Yeah. But you're making that much money, shoot. Like, it's one of those things where it's like she's probably looking long term and like, hey, I may not even have to work after a certain point. So it's probably just in this grind mentality. There's pros and cons to all of these different things. But our biggest thing that we're going to say and push is that do what's best for your marriage. And I don't mean that just in, like, I don't want that to come off as generic, because there are some things I do think that are unhelpful to it. But I think this isn't something that you could just completely write off and say, like, oh, yeah, this is a negative, because you don't have the full context.
More details are needed.
Yep. So those are our thoughts on this. We love to know what you all think. Feel free to disagree with us in the comments, but we really want to know what you all think. So drop a comment down below. And before you head out, like this video. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe and hit that notification bell.